Well, a debate is now raging over whether the punishment fits the crime after a Louisiana man was sentenced to life in prison following his fourth conviction on marijuana charges. 35-year-old Cornell Hood was sentenced under Louisiana's repeat offender law. And joining me now to talk about it, nationally syndicated radio talk show host Michael Smerconish, who's also an MSNBC contributor. So, Michael, this man, Hood, got off with probation for his first 3 convictions in New Orleans. And as I stated, under this repeat offender law, he's now getting life. What do you make of this?
Well, this is what you get sometimes, Tamron, with mandatory sentencing. Mandatory sentencing is something that a lot of politicians love because they can thump their chests and they can say, you know, I'm for locking up the SOBs. But then you've got this guy, dare I say this poor guy, because I think this is a punishment that way, way exceeds the crime, who would have been subject to no more than 15 years for that final offense if he were only charged with that offense. But because, as you point out, it's a 4th conviction, all related offenses, now he goes away for life. It'll be interesting to see what happens ultimately, because I think this is probably prime for an 8th Amendment cruel and unusual punishment kind of an appeal. Yeah, it's interesting. The jury deliberated for less than 2 hours. They convicted Hood of a reduced charge, which would have carried about 15 years in prison.
Text messages from Uncle Sam. You might see one soon on your cell phone.
It's like a police officer's gun. It's there for a good reason, but we hope that we never have to pull the trigger.
The FCC, FEMA, New York's mayor, and the CEOs of the 4 major cell phone carriers in the U.S. gathered at Ground Zero Tuesday to announce the new program. It's called the Personal Localized Alert System.
That plan can launch in New York and in Washington by the end of this year. For everyone else, the program will be up and running in April of next year.
I can't think of a better use of mobile technology, and AT&T is very proud to be a part of this.
Here's how it works. Everyone in the range of cell phone towers like these ones, whose phone is on, will receive a text message with an alert. So, for example, authorities could clear this intersection if there were a bomb threat or another emergency. Instead of the government relying on TV or radio broadcasters, they will now send a text message in cases such as Amber Alerts or last month's tornadoes in the South.
That tornado, it's getting stronger. It's coming to your town. Get out now.
Soon, all cell phones sold will have the capability to receive the emergency alerts, even if cell networks are not working because of traffic overloads.
It's a prioritization that allows it to go around congested networks. You know how what happens, and a lot of times in an emergency, cell phone systems can get overloaded quickly. This has the ability to prioritize around it.
FEMA Chairman Craig Fugate says the system will not be used to track people.
It's not collecting any information about your phone. In fact, it won't even track who got the message.
But cell phones are not private devices.
I don't see a reason to believe that the federal government would receive information about where people are just because they receive these alerts. But if you're wearing a cell phone and it's on, then cell phone companies know at least roughly where you are.
It is not possible to opt out of the text messaging system. The only way not to get a text is to turn off your phone. Ted Shaffrey, Associated Press.
In Western Washington, King 5 News at 10:30 starts now.
After King County Deputy Matt Paul slammed a suspect into a wall, causing severe brain damage, we expected the sheriff would take a hard look at her deputy.
The suspect was innocent, and the case just cost taxpayers a record $10 million. Yet King 5 investigator Linda Byron finds Deputy Paul was put right back on the street, where he continues to use force and rack up complaints.
Surveillance cameras captured the body slam.
They took away the greatest person I've ever met in my life.
Chris Harris had been wrongly identified, but when he ran from police, they were the last steps he ever took. The blow severely damaged his brain and spinal cord.
Preliminary conclusion is that our deputy didn't break any laws from the use of force.
Prosecutors agreed.
It was just a freak accident.
Even after King County paid out $10 million to settle lawsuits, the sheriff defended her deputy's tactics.
There was no evidence of misconduct on the part of Deputy Paul.
But the Harris case was so traumatic, we decided to take a closer look at the deputy. His name is Matt Paul. He's 29 years old, and he's been with the Sheriff's Department 5.5 years. We obtained Matt Paul's file through public disclosure and analyzed some 2,000 pages of documents spanning his entire career. We found a pattern of frequent force and questionable tactics that needlessly escalated some situations and caused injuries. And we saw red flags early on. When Paul was a rookie, his supervisors raised concerns about his tendency to rush, to tunnel in, to jump on incidents other officers had covered. But Paul liked to be where the action is. By 2008, he was striking, tasing, and wrestling with suspects, using takedowns, foot sweeps, punches, and pepper spray. His supervisors found all of it acceptable under department policy.
Some questions are being raised in Wahpeton about illegal searches and seizures.
Super interesting story here. A 17-year-old aspiring journalist was videotaped being arrested for what he claims no reason or probable cause, and then he posted that video online. It is creating quite the buzz. And what possible, if any, illegal procedures has the officer conducted in the past? Reporter Dylan Woolenhouse did some digging, and here's what he found.
Inside the department, so I turned around. At 14, Robert Wanek started making videos about what he felt was injustice in the schools and with law enforcement. It has roughly 18,000 subscribers. His latest is now causing a police investigation and some calling for change. Nearly 3,000 likes and 227 dislikes. In less than 24 hours, the video has already received more than 130,000 hits on YouTube. Wanek told Hill he was shooting a video about unwarranted raids in Wahpeton while standing on a public street. Within seconds, the video clearly shows that I didn't do anything illegal. Officer Dustin Hill put handcuffs on Wanek and takes the teenager under arrest. And so, Wanek was also cuffed and held for more than an hour, then released and never charged with a crime. The minor's parents were also never notified. Unreasonable search and seizure protected by the Constitution. There's unwarranted raids being practiced by this officer, so we're going to try to intimidate you, arrest you on false charges, and then release you and think that it's all going to be okay. We tried to talk to Officer Dustin Hill, but he was in Minnesota for police training this week. Have you ever had any complaints in the past about Officer Hill?
Yes, I have received complaints about him in the past, and I've also received many statements of praise.
The complaints Chief Thorstensen says were nothing that needed any disciplinary action.
I had a lady that said he was too abrupt with her, and that type of thing.
We also checked police records. We didn't find any filed cases against Officer Hill regarding any illegal searches.
Is it possible that Officer Hill made a mistake? You bet. Am I prepared to say that's the case? No.
This is Robert Wanek reporting for Emmett. As for Wanek, he's welcoming the investigation by the chief. I would genuinely hope that he's looking into the event.
Hello everyone, welcome to Global Government News. Today is Wednesday, May 11th, 2011, and I'm Darko. Welcome everyone to this news bulletin. This is part 3. This is my website, www.ggnonline.com, ggnonline.com, and hope you enjoy those videos. Just one after another, bad cops are just, well, I don't know what to say because I don't want to like spread hate speech, but I'm not really fond of political law enforcement officers because they don't just really enforce common law. Because, well, if they did, you don't need police to enforce common law. I mean, maybe peace officers, but I don't really believe in that either. So, anyways, but you know what? People go on and they'll be naive and they'll think that they need the police to protect them, and they'll give up all their rights and all their ways or to defend themselves until eventually. It's just they're so pathetic. That's the only word I can say, that they actually believe in all of this false protection, right? Like the text messages. For what? For what? Because of a stupid government-sponsored terrorist attack that killed 3,000 of their own citizens just so they can roll out all this bullshit? Seriously, it's just people need to wake the fuck up. And quit buying into this crap. Government does not care about your personal safety or health. In fact, they want to kill you. They want to make you very unsafe. They want you to be trembling in fear. Anyways, here we go. Midwest to get $400 million for high-speed rail projects. Well, why? Well, let's see. We need a good, fast rail system to get all the plebs slaves out of the mega cities and start calling them off, right? Chinese, I don't know if that's what it's for, but hey. Chinese babies confiscated for overseas adoption. China's investigating reports about 20 babies that were seized, and that's what we just covered. Joint probe launched into baby snatchers. You can check out all those articles. The tricky chemistry of attraction. Taking birth control pills may not mask the signals, or may mask the signals, that draw the sexes together. So that just makes pretty much good sense, right? That if you're taking the pill, it's a part of a eugenics and social engineering, right? Planned Parenthood, that it's also going to make you what? Not want to be together with another person. You're not going to be attracted to another person. Kind of like the STDs that go around. What happens when you get an STD? A lot of times, well, like, especially with women, it's sterile. It causes sterilization, infertility. So this is all eugenics. And okay, we're going to keep moving. Obese mothers get a pill to prevent fat babies in NHS trials. So there you go. Just like getting DNA tests to see if you have a Superman, the next Superman or the next president. That is all what? Eugenics. If you don't know that, you need to go and look into your history, because they actually called it eugenics. It was openly admitted and talked about in public forum back in the early 1900s, and now they just call it diversity and different types of rights and Planned Parenthood. UK conducted, and the biggest one is what? The biggest hoax that the sheeple believe is, of course, climate change, man-made climate change. The only man that is manipulating the climate are the bastards that are spraying you on a daily basis with various chemicals and nanoparticles, nanobots. So you can thank them, just like this storm that we were hit today with in the Midwest. That was brought to you and sponsored by your government, the Department of Energy. All the various national laboratories brought that thunderstorm to you. So thank them. You paid for it. UK conducted virginity tests on immigrants. Again, says recently uncovered UK Home Office documents show that British government hid how often it subjected female immigrants hoping to enter the country to virginity tests. Then we have breastfeeding, better behavior links. So compare with those on formula milk, breastfed babies are less likely to show behavioral problems. And you don't want that when you're trying to modify people's behavior, right? It's called brainwashing. It says here, could a new Viagra condom encourage safer sex? The fact is that the social engineers and the powers that be don't give a shit about your health, like I said earlier, and they definitely don't care if you get STDs. In fact, they want you to. So this is the thing. Yeah, they may be promoting condoms, but they also promote what? Promiscuity and sleeping around and not forming any bonds or real relationships with people. And that's why you see everyone getting divorced and everyone just having fun and stuff like that. And so yeah, this is another incentive for the slaves to strap it on and of course, what? Don't have babies, because babies are burdens and they're bad for the planet. GM soy, the invisible ingredient, poisoning children. So there you go. So it's genetically modified soy fields. Looks like a bumper harvest, but it's there as a symbol of death. So there you go. Then we have world's top commercial weed killer, Roundup, linked to infertility. So the scientists say. And then we have record wildlife die-offs reported in Northern Rockies. A record number of big game animals perished this winter in parts of Montana, Idaho, and Wyoming from a harsh season of unusually heavy snows due to what? Climate change and global warming and sustained cold in the Northern Rockies. So I just a little double think there, because it makes absolutely no sense if you are a logical person, but it doesn't really matter because we're not living in a logical world. So I'm just waiting on this. Sick fish in Gulf are alarming scientists, and of course it has nothing to do with the BP disaster, so I'm not even going to throw that out there, because like I said, that would be too logical. U.S. supermarket meat contains MRSA germ, says study. And I tried looking for the article, but yeah, you had the Prince Charles telling UK and Brits to what? Cut down on their beef intake. And I got that source through Alan Watt's website, but it was being carried by the London Telegraph. But Alan Watt had in parentheses, and I do trust his word when he puts this out there. Although I couldn't find an exact source for it, but they have their own Angus beef, just like the communists have their own organic food. And they're telling you to cut down on your meat intake, which is a bunch of BS. Please join me in part 4 of this news bulletin. This is GGN, and I'm Darko. Thank you.